ARSJ, we entertain. We're family. Come catch the vibe.
So who is Guitar Gabby?
Guitar Gabby is a rock star, a businesswoman, a Spelmanite, a lawyer, a visionary, a hustler, and a firm believer in representing for the culture.
Wow. Where'd you go to law school?
Vermont Law.
And how was that experience?
It was nice. It was Vermont Law in particular is a very small school. And the people, thankfully, a lot of the sisters that I went to Spelman with, and even some of my old professors at Spelman had gone to Vermont Law, or some of my previous peers at Spelman ended up going to Vermont Law. So it wasn't unfamiliar to be, in the same educational space as people who I've already been with at Spelman, or just, knowing that Spelmanites exist in that space was like really, I think it made the journey a lot less daunting, if you will.
Undaunted by the fight.
Yeah.
So what advice did they give you before you actually went?
One of my teachers, which one do I want to talk about? Dr. Nataki Osborne-Jelks. She was my professor for, I think, ecology at Spelman. And when I asked her to write my recommendation letter, I told her it was for Vermont Law School. And she was like, okay, that's a really good school. I believe she had a friend who went to Vermont Law. And so she connects me with that friend, and just like, I was able to speak with her and talk to her about, just being in a law space in general, as a woman. And then as a Black woman on top of that is very, like, it's a different type of pressure, similarly to being in corporate America, as a woman is a lot, but as a Black woman, a lot of times you're one of two or the only one. So the advice that Dr. Jelks has always given me is just, know who you are. And it sounds really cheesy, people say it all the time, but I think that there's a lot of context to be said to go with that. And I think that in every space that you explore along your journey, learning how to be true to yourself, like genuinely true to yourself from your spirit and from your gut, really is not as easy as it sounds. But once you get there, then it's a little bit easier to sail through. And so Dr. Jelks really just always encouraged me to stay true to who I am and don't let anybody, take me off that path, because it's going to happen just because of the color of your skin. So, yeah.
The more confident you are, the easier that journey is, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So what inspired you to start TxLips, and how does that work with your passion for law?
So I started TxLips in 2016 or 2015. Started playing for Diamond from Crime Mob, and then I started her backing band. At first it was just me, drums, bass, and keys. So it was the same 4 people all the time. We toured with Diamond for a little bit at some HBCU. She did an HBCU tour run, and we did some music videos with her. And the experience was really cool. But one of the things that really stuck out to me like a sore thumb throughout that journey was people who are not musicians have a very hard time managing musicians, especially if you're a manager who is not even remotely interested in instruments at all. And so that really sparked my interest in wanting to learn the business outside of just wanting to be able to protect my music and my talent to be able to write music. I wanted to be able to run my own business and manage people that I get because I am also a musician. So that's how that started, how me starting the band and then also managing the band started. And then simultaneously we were just doing TxLips stuff. And then when we played with Diamond, we were girl code. So we were just switching hats depending on what day of the week it was. And then about a year into the journey, I decided to make it into a collective. So there are about 15 women around the world, all Black, all female, and they all identify differently, which I love, because it's representation for Black femmes, in music. And so that's how that started. And I wanted to just let it be a collective because my main thing was I wanted Black femmes and Black women to be able to participate in something that they love, that they were passionate about, without feeling like they had to sacrifice the hats of, I got to go to work or choose music. I got to do this or play drums or play guitar. So I just feel like, you know, why can't we just do all of it? Because Black women are always having to give up. We always got to give all our shit for somebody else. Can I cuss? I'm sorry. I should ask.
You're fine. Be free.
Okay. So yeah, so that was like that was always one of my biggest things, because I saw my mom and my grandmothers on both sides giving up a lot of things that they were interested in. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I stumbled across a sketchbook and my mom's stuff from college. And I started going through her stuff. My mom went to Spelman too. So I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, what's this? Who did this? And it was like full, you know, like when you go into like a fashion editor's office and they have like sketches all, it was like that type of stuff. So I'm like, wait, mom, what is this? She's like, oh, you know, I used to sketch. I'm like, well, why don't you sketch anymore? Well, you know, I met your dad and then he had to go into the academy and then I had to work 2 jobs and, you know, Spelman debt. So I'm just like, my mom, like, she never got to really do something she was passionate about. And I didn't feel like that was fair. I also understand that life happens and life responsibilities call, but what if we had a space where we could do all of those things when we wanted to and when our schedule allowed? So that's kind of the big picture of why the Tulips is a collective and not like a traditional band setup. So yeah, that was a long-winded answer.
Where are some of the places that the other ladies are from?
Yeah, so I met Lauren before I went to London in 2019. And then Megan, she plays guitar. She is in South Carolina. And then Netta Sherelle, she plays bass. She's in Chicago. I have 2 more friends that are one is in Northern California, Jay. And then I have another bassist in LA. There's a lot of musicians here. Planet Venus is here. Aaron Mosley. We're really just kind of scattered all over the place. And then there's Aaliyah Guerra. She's in Montreal, Canada. So like literally everywhere.
So there's a sisterhood in the collective. How can you say that sisterhood is similar to your experience at Spelman, or how is it different, and in what ways?
That's a good question. If I'm being honest, my freshman year, I struggled with sisterhood. I struggled with being at Spelman. A lot of it was because it reminded me of being in high school where I was the combat boot, you know, lace tights wearing rebel chick. And none of the other girls wanted to be around me because they thought I was weird or like I did like voodoo and shit. So it was a little uncomfortable at first. But once I found my niche group of friends, like the sisterhood was automatic. I knew actually one of my best friends still to this day, her name is Sierra Porter, and she's a wonderful New Orleans musician and singer and all of that. But I remember we met in the cafeteria because we have, you know, the white dress ceremony. So I had, you know, we have to wear pantyhose. And I was not trying to wear them slides, them little black slides. I wanted to wear boots. And my mom was not happy about that, but I wore them anyway. And I went to the cafeteria and I had on my combat boots, and Sierra, I'm looking for a place to sit. And Sierra was like, you can sit over here if you want. I'm like, I mean, okay, I don't know you, but I guess that's cool. So we're sitting down talking and she was like, you look like you listen to rock music. And I said, well, why would you say that? And she looked at my boots and I was like, we're here, I can tell. So we started bonding over System of a Down. And ever since then, like literally that was my first day of school. And to this day, Sierra and I are still really good friends. So I would say the sisterhood though at Spelman was something that was a rough patch coming right into it, but it was also a really good experience because I was able to learn what sisterhood actually meant, being like growing into my adulthood and then taking those relationships and still having them 10 years later. To me, that's like, it's very rare that you meet people that you're still friends with many, many, many years later. But with Tulips, the sisterhood is definitely strong because we're all musicians and we all have been in those spaces where we understand what it's like to be the only female in that space or the only Black girl. And, you know, dudes is always trying to either talk to you or question your ability to play or validate it through their eyes. And so, like, honestly, anytime I see a Black girl and she's holding an instrument in the industry, it's an automatic like eye connection. Like, hey sis, you good? You good? You good? I'm good. You want to talk? And then once we become friends and start bonding over like our love of music, our instrument, then like the sisterhood just continues to level up and just grow into eternal industry sisterhood friendships.
So how freeing is it to be in an all-female collective?
It's super freeing because anytime we're together, whether that's in rehearsals, whether that's in emails, whether that's on Zoom, Instagram, or on stage, it's a different type of guard that I feel like we can let down because we get each other without having to say that or without having to really talk about it. Again, because 9 times out of 10, if I go into Guitar Center, I'm the only Black girl in there. So just being on stage and being around each other, it's literally like just being able to do something that I'm extremely passionate about without having to have a guard up or like, you know, all of my eyes peeled for, you know, if I play this song wrong, that guy over there is probably going to say something, or they might think that I'm weird. They might make fun of me. When we're on stage together or when we're just kicking it together, none of that shit even matters. Like, it doesn't matter in general because like nobody out there pays my bills or yours. So, but it's a different type of guard that you don't have to feel like you have to have up around your sisters. And that's a really good feeling. And it really does, it curates a more open dialogue on stage, being able to communicate with different styles, different musicians and how they play all within the realm of like my Guitar Gabby music. So just seeing how everyone is able to connect off bat on stage with their own style to give you like this huge, you know, fusion bubble of sounds it's a really cool adrenaline rush.
So on the other hand, then how do you guys feel about collaborating with men or having other artists, male artists, play with you guys?
I've never been anti-man. I'm anti-niggatry. And I don't like if I see that kind of stuff, or you know, if that's the type of person that we're dealing with, then honestly, I'm not really gonna have a conversation really about collaborating, because to me, writing music, and this is for, I think this applies to everybody, but like my music is extremely special to me. It's a very sensitive area like anybody else, because I'm writing these songs from experiences that I've been through, from really shitty relationships, from a season where I was very depressed. Like I wrote all of this music out of those spaces. So collaborating with other people who are not like-minded or who are not here for the same reasons creates a whirlwind of drama and shit that nobody has time for. So that type of energy, whether it's male, female, I don't care who you are, I'm not rocking with that. But I actually have been trying to put together a couple of projects over the next couple of months, or actually into next year, with some friends of ours, like Hero the Band. They're a band of all Black guys, brothers, and they're really, really, really amazing people, great musicians. So collaborating with someone like them, I would totally be down for it. Or there's another group, brothers of ours, called the OBGMs, and they're really cool too. So if it's good people, good energy, right intentions, I don't mind talking about it and seeing how we can make magic together.
I love it. You have this song called Niggas. What inspired that?
Niggatry, sis, you already know. I sometimes use
what specifically inspired it?
So we're in 2021. I would say like in 2017, 2018, I was dating this guy, and we broke up. I think maybe like it was almost a full year relationship. But the way that we broke up and why we broke up is really what pissed me off, because I could tell, and part of it was my fault, because I could tell that you didn't really want to be in a relationship, or that you don't want to be in a relationship. I could tell some of those things, but I think that I was doing, what a lot of women do, which is, I can change it, or I can fix it, or, like you never been a bitch like me. Like I was trying to figure out how I can make it work, because I really care about people in relationships. So I don't want to just like leave something that I put time and energy into. But a year into the relationship of all these back and forth, zero emotional connection on his part, one day I just flat out asked, do you even want to be in a relationship? Like, I feel like you don't want to date anybody. And he was like, no, yeah, you're right. I'm like, so why didn't you tell me that like a year ago then? I don't know. I was just trying to try something new. Okay, but I'm not like a t-shirt at Marshall's. Like, there, like you're playing with people's emotions. And so just through that whole situation, like every single day, it just got more and more stupid. And I just one day was like, you know what? Niggas. I mean, niggas. I don't know. I feel like that summarizes it. But and I also just think that, like, as I was writing that song, I didn't want it to be like a, we hate men, because it's not like that. But, sometimes when you're talking to your girls, niggas. When they DM you, niggas. When they do something stupid on television, niggas. So I wanted it to be more like a female anthem of like, this is fuckboy behavior and we're queens and we don't have time for that shit. So if you are on that fuckboy nigga type of shit, don't even bring that over here. That's not the type of energy that queens are operating on. So niggas, what can I say?
No, it's actually a way to empower women too. Don't waste your time because you're worth way more than that.
Right.
So
right. Yeah, definitely.
What about the first time you played and the first time you picked up a guitar? What was that experience like?
It was weird because I didn't, prior to playing guitar, I had the first instrument my mom ever put me in was piano. And that was because I told, my parents, I want to play an instrument. I don't know what. So my mom put me in piano at the church. That was cool. But I didn't feel like a jolt of energy that I needed because I was developing into becoming a rock star. And I didn't feel what I needed there. So I started playing the clarinet, started playing the oboe, and I love both of those instruments because they gave me a different perspective to look into a world that I was already really into, which is science fiction. And I used to love Lord of the Rings. I learned the whole soundtrack on clarinet. And then I just started to explore and more and realize, I wonder if I can like learn this same shit on a different instrument. And so my mom, we went to Kent Stanton Music. At the time it was called Galaxy Music in Stone Mountain. And I met a tech actually who I still have to this day, Tommy Thompson. And he gave me a starter kit guitar. And I remember he told me, like how to plug it up and how to set it up. And I took it home and I'm like, all right, I plugged it up. Now what do I do? How do you like learn to play this shit? So I started listening to different songs, listening to different genres of music to figure out what it was that I was drawn to. And rock and roll, punk, screamo, all of that kind of stuff really resonated with me. And I think it was because at that time I was having a really difficult challenge in middle and high school being comfortable in my skin as a Black girl. And it was very, 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 it was a very difficult time in my life. And guitar, specifically rock and roll, the energy that I felt through watching, Kurt Cobain smash his guitar on the stage, or just like listening to, Tat, which is an English punk band that I really like, and their lead singer and guitarist is a woman. Her name is Tatiana De Maria. I love her so much, but just like seeing how much energy that rock stars had, like watching Jimi Hendrix, it did something for me. And I think a lot of it was when I played guitar, when I played rock and roll, I really felt like all of the shit that didn't make sense to me in school the day before that, it didn't even matter when I was playing guitar because I was just releasing all of this energy and I was collecting a lot of good energy. And it was just a good like whirlwind of an adrenaline rush that really I needed to push me to the next level of like figuring out what I wanted to do with my life and who I wanted to be, and then loving all of that and all of me, regardless of what circumstances or people say. Like guitar really opened up that section of my mind where I tried to try to figure out like who is Gabby? What is Gabby like? And is Gabby okay with all of the things that Gabby likes? And how can Gabby take that and use it maybe down the road in her life? I don't know what she's going to be like as an adult. She might be a shithead. I don't know. But if she's not, how can I use that and to inspire other girls that feel like I do right now? Because this doesn't feel good. So that was kind of like the catalyst for all of that. And guitar definitely played the biggest role in that.
So it definitely served as therapy for you. So
yeah.
When you pick up your guitar, what story are you trying to tell?
It's okay to be imperfect. A lot of like going back to the sisterhood and being female musicians, like a lot of times, really all the time, when you go into like jam sessions or like again, like in Guitar Center or at NAMM, the huge, music conference out in California every year, it's like if you're not playing at a certain speed or if you're not like shredding up and down the neck at lightning, at a lightning time, then a lot of male musicians or musicians in general, but because it's a male dominated industry, a lot of male musicians feel like you're not that good, or, oh, you messed up on that one note in that video, so that means that you're not a good guitarist. Like what music is sold because people have a connection to it, not because you're ripping up and down the damn fretboard and nobody can even understand what the hell you're even trying to tell me to feel. To me, playing guitar is sending a message to other people that do and do not identify with me, that do and do not believe in the same things that I believe in, or, you know, people that I may never even meet. But like, I never met Jimi Hendrix, but when I turn on a Jimi Hendrix song, I can feel him speaking to me through my computer. When I literally turn on Nirvana, I hear Kurt Cobain telling me about the story of his life. And I wanted to figure out a way to channel all of that through my guitar and through my music. And that's been like one of the biggest things that I've learned early on in my journey, that it's not about the followers, it's not about the likes, it's not about how fast you can play or how slow you play. If I feel something when I turn on my camera or open up that YouTube video or turn on that song, to me, that the job has been done, because that's going to make me want to say, this person is giving me something. Like, I've never even met Gabby before, but I'm feeling something. Like, I feel like she was crying when she wrote this, and that's how I feel right now. And if she's freely, you know, just being herself and being vulnerable and imperfect, you know, that inspires me to do some of that. And so, like, for me, it's all about the inspiration and just reminding people that it's okay to be imperfect. I'm not saying don't strive to be your best version of yourself, but like, it's okay to not shred up and down the guitar. You know, it's okay to not play 9,000 notes a minute. Sometimes, a lot of times, less is more. And that's really when people can feel the passion and the emotion.
You're so positive.
Thanks.
I know you've probably come a long way, but you're definitely so positive.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit. What would you say is your biggest life mistake? You have a song about mistakes.
I would say some of the repeated behaviors on my part of the type of people that I allowed in my circle, male and female. I had a big, I'm trying to figure out the best way to like describe it, but the short version is I had a really big falling out with a very, very good friend a couple of years ago. And it really sliced me in half. And honestly, I'm still healing from it. But I had to take a step back and say, like, after those kinds of relationships were severed or bridges were burnt, I had to take a step back and say, you know, you are the common denominator in this. What is your part? Because it's not 100%. It's never going to be always all somebody else's fault. Even if the responsibility that I have is, I knew in my gut in the beginning, like with the guy I was dating, I knew that he wasn't good for me. And I knew that this nigga was going to waste my time. And what did I do? I still engaged. So, Gabby, you have a very large percentage of this that you need to take accountability for, and stop letting certain people who don't need to be in your circles into your circle. And my mom and dad always told me that, like I'm sure any other parent tells their kids, but like when you experience that kind of stuff for yourself and you start creating, like, what does a boundary for Gabby look like? Because that my boundaries are not going to look the same as yours, but that's something that we each have to figure out independently. And then, you know, down the road, you know, hopefully when you reconnect with those people that weren't good for you at 19 years old, the hope is that, you know, we've all grown and matured to a space of being able to rekindle friendships or rekindle heartbreak, you know, just rekindle all of those things that went bad, but also being okay with it never coming full circle, and just being honest with yourself and like saying, you know, the same type of person keeps coming into your life and the same type of things keep happening. So what are you doing and how can we change that? So I would say that's been the biggest thing over my career, in a personal aspect and like in a business aspect, just learning how to keep some people at arm's length. Because I love people and I love talking to people. And sometimes I'll be having a problem with telling people no. I've gotten a lot better with that over the years. But even then, like, it can be hard sometimes. So, yeah.
Trust me, I'm the same way. But word to the wise, keep that circle tight. There is less
okay. Yes.
less stress.
Right. Definitely.
So how would you say you ladies as a collective are queens of the new age?
I would say being a part of the redefining of the music industry. I feel like we're in a very interesting time in history. I was actually talking to a friend about this yesterday. My homegirl Jackie Vincent and I were talking about how this has been like one of the first times in my life that I have consciously felt like I'm watching history change as we're making the history change. And then I started thinking about, I wonder what kids 20, 30 years from now, what is the history book going to say about the music industry or about, you know, the Tulips or about Jackie Vincent? Like, what is the music industry? What are these books going to say about how the industry changed in 2020 and 2021 because of a pandemic that nobody, you know, nobody knew this was, well, some people, but we didn't, like, nobody prepared for this or asked for this. And so like literally having to pivot everything in a split second is so difficult, but I feel like it was necessary and it was needed. And I also feel like Black women in particular in the industry are coming to such a, we're coming to such an acknowledgement, like an outward acknowledgement of the type of power that we have, the type of queens that we are, and the way that we actually literally do run all of this shit. And we just simply do, period. And I think that we've come to a space of acknowledging all that and going and pushing to take what belongs to us and Sister Rosetta Tharpe and, you know, all of the Black women that never got acknowledged when they should have been given their flowers. And it's happening 80, 90 years later. I feel like right now we're in a space of saying, this is a new age of music. This is a new age of business. It's simply just a new age. We're entering into a whole different world. How can we be a part of making that something positive? And how can we be a part of positively impacting how young girls look at themselves through the lens of a guitar or through the lens of a drum set or, you know, whatever? How can we positively impact those little kids that are out there watching us, Black girls in particular? Because I didn't have a magazine that I could just open up and see Black girls, but now the young girls of today can get online or they can go into a store and pick up a Guitar World magazine and see a Black girl, see more than one Black girl. Like that right there, that's because Black women got up and said, we're taking our shit. We're not asking for it. And for that, like I would trade nothing else in the world to be a part of that history in the making. So I think that we're all just continuing to push for the inclusion and the diversity that this world refuses to acknowledge, but they want us to work for free because we're magical. Yeah.
So I want to talk about two ends of the spectrum, and this is just a question I came up with off the top of my head. So I want you to respond to Kamala Harris and the history she made in that regard, and then Marsai Martin, who's on the younger end of the spectrum. What do you think about those women?
I think I like Kamala Harris. This is always, somebody asked me about this, and this is always like an interesting question to answer because I feel like Kamala Harris, the Michelle Obamas, and I'm not putting them on the same level, but I think that the world loves to find one or two bad things that Black women did, and then 30 years later, bring it up and try to make it the focal point of every single story instead of celebrating, yeah, she probably did some shitty things, not agreeing with that at all. But has that person changed? One, because I mean, I think everybody has the ability to change, it's just a matter of if you want to do it or not. And then if so, how are you taking, you know, the person who you are, who you've matured into, and how are you positively giving back to our community and impacting the young girls that are going to be watching you? For Kamala Harris to be in the position that she's in, this is the first time that I've ever turned on the television and seen a woman of any color, not white, be inside of the White House, like with like a whole entire ass job running this damn country. I think that that's magical and that's beautiful. But I also feel like I think that it's really good to be able to see younger Black girls that are on the other end of the spectrum that are able to relate to the generation of kids that are watching them a little bit better than like a Kamala Harris would be able to. Because Kamala Harris, I'm sure, has like an Instagram team, but Kamala Harris and like my parents, like that age group, they don't know how to get on the TikToks and all that kind of stuff. So being able to directly positively give back to and impact the young girls who are on TikTok now, there's a gap. So the younger generation, I think the younger generation of Black girls that are really coming up and like just being a boss at 9, 10, 11 years old, that right there is inspiring to me as an adult, but I know that it has to be twice as impactful for the young girls who are the exact same age and they turn on CNN and they see, or turn on Disney or whatever, and see literally someone their exact same age doing something so confidently and so powerful. I think on either end of the spectrum, I think that it's a beautiful thing and it's something that should definitely be acknowledged. But I also recognize that there are different categories of people on either end of the spectrum that is going to impact differently than the other, if I'm making sense.
No, I get it completely.
Okay.
So how did your creative process change during the pandemic?
Right before the pandemic really like took off where nobody could go anywhere at all, we had been in the studio actually working on my series of live session videos and working on that live studio project. And so being able to be in the studio with each other while we were like playing and like listening to the playback and, you know, just working through a lot of different sections it was a really good energy to be in. But being able to go from that to literally the next day, like nothing at all, made me have to revisit some of the steps of harnessing my gift that I had to go through at a young age. It made me revisit some of those things because I didn't realize how detached I was from certain ways of practicing. And I was thinking about this yesterday as I was practicing, like some of the exercises that I used to do to sharpen certain skills, I didn't realize that I stopped doing those as much because what not replaced, but kind of what replaced some of that was touring. So, you know, I was on stage all the time, or I was on my computer if I wasn't on stage. So there are little things left and right that I didn't realize I kind of pushed to the side or just completely forgot about. So being able to revisit a lot of those things that I didn't intentionally push to the side, being able to revisit those now in this space was a challenge, but it was also really good. I love challenges. I'm an Aries, but it was a really good challenge to just be able to revisit those things and like come up with new, more creative ways to do some of the things that I had been doing before when it comes to songwriting and when it comes to recording all of those things. I recorded both my albums for the most part at home because I couldn't book studio sessions. So I learned a lot about recording. So
were you excited about that process or was it stressful?
It was definitely stressful because I had Logic and I had an interface. I had all of these things and I knew how they worked, but I didn't really have a reason to use them that often because I would just I prefer to play live when I do studio recordings. So I would just go to my engineer's house and we would just record everything there. But it was definitely frustrating because Logic kept shutting down on my computer every time I tried to record something. So that was irritating. But it also helped me to realize that I need to dump my computer and get a new hard drive and eventually purchase a desktop. So I did those things and now we're having vaccines and maybe can get back to studio sessions. But it's still something that I don't think it'll be anything that's ever lost. It was definitely a good way to cut down on future expenses because certain things, without a shadow of a doubt, I know that I can do at home. And then the bigger things, I can use studio time and money for, you know, some of those bigger things.
So it worked out for the best.
Yeah.
So where would you say was the coolest place you guys have played?
London. I would definitely say London. London was it's a tie between London and Montreal, but I'm gonna go with London because London, I don't know, like if it's just me as being Gabby or if it's just like being a Black person, but like when we went on family vacations, London was never something that came up as a possibility. It was usually like somewhere else in Georgia or DC or Florida, things that you can drive to or fly to easily. But like my parents, even like when I told them I was going to London, they were like, I ain't never even thought about going over there. I mean, like, I want to go, but like Black people, like growing up, they were like, Black people didn't have the cash flow to just get up and go to London. And like, we're 60 and we still haven't. So like, but it was a really cool experience just to be able to travel to the other side of the world. Being on the plane for like 17 hours, that was also a new experience. And then just being in the city and like exploring, you know, I figured if I'm going to go to the other side of the world, I'm going to stay for like 2-3 weeks because I'm trying to absorb all of it. I'm not going to go and come back. So we we went and we stayed for about 2 or 2.5 weeks, and it was the best experience ever. Like most of it, I would say 90% of our time over there was literally just exploring the city, meeting new people. I'm a businesswoman, so I have my cards everywhere I went. I look cool because I have my leather jacket and boots and studs and all that kind of stuff. But then also one thing I learned is just being a Black woman inside of another in different countries is a very interesting energy shift, because my experience being a Black woman in America was not the same when I went to Canada. When I went to Canada, I was like, oh, that's what y'all do up here? Okay, well, I don't do that. So, and then going over to London, I was like, oh, wow, y'all y'all some other shit. So we're not doing that either though. But it was a really good experience though, to be able to just kind of, see history and see the world in a different way. And it definitely opened up my perspective on how I interact with people back home. It also impacted the way that I do business and where I do business. A lot of my supporters and people that stream music and buy merch and my business partners, most of them are in the United Kingdom or in Canada. And so that was also a really good opportunity to learn more about, my analytics and putting money where I know that I'm going to get something, like get a return on my investment. And I knew from studying my analytics that, if I dump money into London, I know it's going to cost me a lot of money. It's going to cost a lot of money, but I think it's going to be worth it. And I literally maxed out my credit card just to go to London and just explore everything. But I knew that was something I could pay that down. That's going to be fine. But this experience is something that no amount of money would ever be able to buy. And so if I could do it again, I definitely would. The show probably would have, some of the things about the show would have been a little bit different, but it comes with the game. But it was a really good experience, and the energy of the crowd was great. All of just everything top to bottom. I want to go back so bad.
First off, when you said maxed out your credit card, my heart dropped. But when you said the experience was no amount of money, I could totally relate, because I'm the same way about experiences.
Yeah.
You can never get time back. So just spend it the way you want to spend it. Enjoy those experiences.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So when you said that the Black people in Montreal and London were doing certain things, what were those things that you said that I'm not doing that?
It was okay. It wasn't even Black people. It was really like crazy white people up there, because there are crazy white people everywhere. But like there are different types of white people in Canada and in London than there are the United States. Just like in the South, there are like certain type of white people and certain type of things that you'll probably run into, like with regards to racism or with regards to just general, like straight up, I don't want to see you or your skin color in my space at all. And experiencing that in the South was something that I had to deal with growing up. Then going up to the north, my mom's from DC. So when we would come up to DC, even like the way that people communicated was different. The way that some of the white people that I would interact with at venues, that was different than the South or even on the West Coast. So then when I got to Canada, I did have a situation one time where I was in a lot of pain. I had injured a joint in my foot. And so my foot was very swollen. I was by myself in Canada, and I had to like hobble down from my apartment, which was at the top of the hill. Montreal is very hilly. So my apartment was at the top of the hill, and I had to get to like a CVS basically at the bottom, all the way on St. Catherine Street. And when I got in there, I was already very stressed out from walking everywhere. I didn't have any money to just like hop in an Uber and, Uber everywhere. But when I got in there, I was knelt down, I had a backpack on, and I was looking at some medicine to get. And this white lady came and ran a cart into my back, like as if I just wasn't there. So so my first reaction was that. I was like, I can't get arrested up here, but I do have time to talk about it. So I turned around and I'm like, you excuse, like I'm right here. And I wear neon colored things. So it's not like you missed me. Plus I'm a human. So, and she just kind of looked at me, didn't say anything, didn't acknowledge me. She just kept walking. So I was like, cool, don't let me see you again. Saw her on the next aisle. And I just stood there and I just looked directly at her. If you need to get past me, then you have to say, excuse me. Like, I'm not invisible. I'm a whole entire human. So that was like, that type of stuff happened like maybe 2 or 3 times in Canada. And I was just like, y'all are doing something different. And then when I went to London, it was a very strange, and this happens in America too, but the way that it happens with white men in London is a little bit different. Like fetishizing over Black women it was very uncomfortable, like from getting off the plane. My experience in America, if I'm dealing with white guys who are doing that kind of stuff, is like for the most part, they'll, take it easy. And I can tell from the beginning that you're, in the category of you just want to talk to me because I'm Black and because I'm a woman. And then I play an instrument and you find something, I guess, interesting about that you can fetishize over. But like in London, you could see it like just walking down the street. We didn't have to say anything. When me and my band were just walking down the street and we saw white men, the type of looks that we got was very uncomfortable because I felt like a literal piece of meat on a stick walking down the streets of London. It was very uncomfortable. So
what do they say?
A lot of times they don't say anything. Obviously this is not everybody, but the white people that we did encounter over there, it was more so in the looks. It was more so in the type of energy that you could feel when you're passing by someone. It was more of like a, wow, look at that there, or like, like, ooh, look at those legs, or I've never seen, Black girls like that over here. It was more so like that. So it was uncomfortable at times, but it's the world. So I don't know if that there's any place where being a woman would not come with some of those experiences. Not that those are welcome and not that those are that I agree with those types of experiences. I think that all of what the major and minor things that me and my band has experienced through touring, all of it was not necessary at all. But I also saw it as a challenge to, again, like reinforce boundaries for myself. Also learning how and when to respond. Sometimes, people don't need a response. Sometimes you can just look right back at them and that's the response that you get from me. Sometimes people, you need to say something like, excuse you, I was standing right here, but life experiences, but,
So what would you tell your 8-year-old self?
I would tell my 8-year-old self that the world is probably going to be a shitty place in the future. But I think that there's a lot of beauty that comes out of it. I think that there's a lot of amazing people and experiences that you can have on your journey if your cup is half full and not half empty. And that's something my dad always told me. I never really knew what he meant by that, but the more that I kept going through different experiences, different relationships, different trials and errors, the more that I started to realize that my cup is actually half full and not half empty. And if it's half full, then my perspective on everything else around me changed and will continue to change. So I would say that, despite all the things that come with being a Black girl, being a Black woman, being a woman in this world, despite all the annoying negative things that come along with that, the power that you have by literally just existing as yourself is more powerful than anything else. And there's no one on the face of the earth that can take that from you. So continue in that, even when it gets rough, take a break. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm doing that today. We're trying to do that today, but as long as you keep going, you've got to keep going though.
So what's in store for Guitar Gabby and the TxLips Band in 2021?
We are working on which I need to finish planning this, but I'm working on an acoustic show, an unplugged show, kind of like Nirvana MTV Unplugged. So I'm working on putting together that, and then also just continuing to work on community partnerships. We're gearing up for the TxLips Academy. Every summer we do the TxLips Academy in partnership with different girls rock camps around the world. So we have a lot of things coming up with that, and just teaching different campers, different instruments, and different life business skills that that I'm really passionate about bringing to campers. So all of that's going on, and then I'm also working on 2 new singles, and then my music video for the Deadpool is going to be coming out soon. And what else? And then hopefully getting back to touring. I'm seeing, like, I don't know. I've been kind of 50-50 because like I want to go tour, but in order to tour, I have to book things. And in order to book them, I typically book them a year in advance, but I don't know how to book things a year in advance when I don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. So I don't know. I've been keeping an eye out on the vaccines and like how how that's gonna change everything. And then, when the time is right, I'm not worried that we'll be able to get back on the road and get back out to seeing people in person and not, playing guitar over Zoom.
So you're open to getting the vaccine so you can get back to touring, or have you already gotten it?
My sister has gotten it and she convinced me today. I think I'm gonna put my name on the little list and see what number they give me, girl. But I don't know. I've still been watching. I've still been, taking my little notes. But I think I'm gonna watch for a little bit longer and see what happens, because the history with vaccines and Black people in this country have not been the best. So I'm a little uneasy. So
Go ahead, girl.
see. We are gonna see, because I don't.
So where can people find Guitar Gabby and the TxLips Band?
My website is TxLips.com. It's pronounced tulips, but it's spelled TxLips. And then my Guitar Gabby website, actually, we're going to be doing an unveiling of my refreshed Guitar Gabby website on my birthday on April 5th. So that's going to be coming up really soon. I'm excited about that. It's been a website that I really put a lot of time and energy into redeveloping over the last year and a half to 2 years with my team. So yeah, that's gonna be happening. So you can find me on there or on the social medias at Guitar Gabby, at the TxLips Band. And if all else fails, you just Google Guitar Gabby, everything's gonna come up.
I love it. And one last question. What did you name your guitar?
My PRS, the new green one. I don't know. I gotta be
You
honest.
don't have a name?
I still haven't named it because I wanted to name it Gracie, but my green ESP's name is Gracie. My cat's name is Gracie, and her attitude, I think, speaks volumes. So I don't know. I can't have two guitars with the same name.
Right.
So I've been going back and forth. I don't know. I haven't figured out anything. But I'm also one of those people, when it comes to naming my instruments, I name them when something comes up and I'm like, you know what, that's the perfect name. Then that's when I have the name. But I try not to push it because my guitars are my children and I don't want to just like give it a random ass name that doesn't resonate with me. So right now it's just Green Guitar PRS.
That's true. And the name will come. And when you know it, let me know.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We'll talk again soon.
All righty.